On the back of England's squad announcement, I thought it would be timely to let you know some of the things I expect from England this upcoming Six Nations. And let me tell you, there's plenty of things I'd like about the changing coach, and a couple of things I really hate and think are unfair. Also, you've probably noticed my accent and thought, what would this convict know? And I can assure you, that is a very fair assumption to make. I'm definitely not the expert, especially when it comes to Northern Hemisphere rugby. I never really gave it a chance until COVID struck, and now I'm completely infatuated by the quality of premiership rugby since first flicking it on. With England's new head coach, Steve Borthwick, coming into the reins at England, joined by Kevin Sinfield, they can definitely do a lot of work to improve the current England side and genuinely find that bounce-back season that is desperately wanted by England fans. Unfortunately, time is not really on their side, with the disappointing results in the Autumn Nations series being the straw that broke the camel's back. I feel the time frame to back or sack Eddie Jones would have been better suited to after the Six Nations last year and not so close to this World Cup, which is really the main downside for English rugby fans at the moment. With that said, however, a massive positive for Borthwick and his team is that unlike when coaching at Leicester, they won't need to worry about building a roster. His simple job is to pick the best players he can, which should have England fans feeling pretty confident. With the performances the big names of English rugby have put in so far during the Prem this season, Itoje, Tuolangi, Owen Farrell have all been outstanding, Anthony Watson, Freddie Stewart. Then you've got some absolute bolters in Ben Curry and Ollie Hassel-Collins. Now, there's already been some panic or doubt already cast upon Borthwick caused by Leicester's results in the Prem this season, but that's really because of the horrific injury list and changes at the club. You can definitely expect Farrell or Ford, when he's fit, to be sitting in the 10 position. Borthwick's style of play is ironically the same game plan that Eddie Jones used to use and is very popular with Rassie Erasmus, which, believe it or not, England have the cattle to execute. It relies on counter-attacking and punishing teams for their mistakes, as opposed to the ball-in-hand, build-up, phase-by-phase play that requires almost no mistakes to pay off. Expect players to be picked in their actual positions, and while the game plan may seem dull at times, it's one that may actually foster a winning side. So their level of turnover risk should be pretty low, just like Leicester last season, where they'd rather let the other team use the ball and make those mistakes to then capitalise, trusting their defence. This part may get confusing, but with Borthwick's love for the technical aspects of the game, it should lead to a massive lift in the technical parts of rugby that are now focused on, and I really do think this will be in the set piece. It should also allow the players to be more narrow in their technical approach to the game, as their tactical approach, yes, kicking and territory, will actually reduce the amount of technical skills players need to focus on during the game, which is what I think some of these constant running ball-in-hand teams can sometimes get lost with, especially when there's a revolving door of players coming in and out. Like I said though, I'm not the expert, and I do know that Kevin Sinfield is likely to be a good defensive coach considering his rugby league background and the fact Leicester built an entire premiership on their rock-solid defence, which is made evident with Leicester having the third highest amount of tackles in the league and second highest tackle efficiency when they won the title. And it was so beautifully complemented by Borthwick's tactical game of playing safe and taking less risks. What's also interesting is that the team that seems to kick the most at the moment's on top of the table, so Leicester last season had the most kicks, won the Prem, and then at an international level, France are on a 13 win streak and they've also kicked the most out of Tier 1 nations. Another interesting point here is Leicester actually conceded the least amount of tries through the line maul tactic in the entire competition. They simply were the best at not letting teams have that opportunity, with the lowest percentage of teams entering their red zone. What's also really interesting is Leicester made sure 90% of their kicks landed in the field of play. This took away the option of the line-out maul tactic that's become so overpowered in rugby at the moment. It's a 5-year contract for Borthwick. Now, coaching contracts don't mean much these days, but there's obviously a long-term plan here. With that said though, don't expect England to lay down during this Six Nations. I don't think for a second they're looking at the 2027 World Cup. In fact, last time the World Cup was in France, England managed to make it all the way to the final, and they also got a new head coach in December leading up to the World Cup. When Borthwick joined Leicester, it was a very similar situation that needed a clear out of the dressing sheds and coaching staff. Before starting at Leicester, they came dead last, only outing Saracens due to their penalty. The following season, they came 6th with the clear out and then 1st. There are so many similarities, you could almost make a compelling case. In summary though, expect safety inside the 22, more kicks likely to be contested, especially the box kick, improvement in the set piece, Owen Farrell and George Ford holding down the fly half position, and a coach who meticulously studies opposition teams and forms a game plan based on their weaknesses. If the opposition's unfit, he'll find a way to run them around. If the other team has small wingers, he'll find a way to expose the aerial duel. If a side is fast-paced, he'll find a way to slow them down. There really is this strange thing that happens when new coaches come into sides and they get a few big scalpels straight off the bat. I reckon they're every chance of ending up first or second this Six Nations. What do you think?